My name's Paul Mogford from Crafter and Mogford. We're here today to talk about the recent works on the 9th hole. As you may be aware, we've been involved with the redevelopment of the 10th green, as well as the second shot bunker on 9 and the greenside bunkering. So what we're going to talk about today is, just briefly, is cover three topics. Firstly, the strategic intent of the work we've done. Secondly, the fairway remodelling. And lastly, the bunker remodelling itself. So from a strategic point of view, for the longer hitters previously, the carry to the first left-hand lobe of the bunker was around 220 metres, and to the right-hand lobe, which is further around the corner and not really visible from the rear tee, it's about 228 metres. So what we're endeavouring, and we have done with the remodelling of the bunkers, is we've split the bunker into two, and the first bunker just shifts a little bit further along, just by a few metres, increasing the carry, and the second bunker, which replaces the furthest lobe of the existing bunker, that's set around another 8 to 10 metres further along. So it just increases that carry to 235 metres or thereabouts. What we've also done is reduce the extent of that bunker from the right, where it was clearly not visible. It was a waste of room and space, if you like, so it's allowed us with the shaping to really soften and blend that shaping back into the existing ground more sympathetically. Now for the general member, the strategy was more, I guess, one of survival in negotiating the severe side slopes. So what we've really endeavoured to do here is to make it much more fair and playable down that right-hand side by addressing some of the slope issues. But also the existing fairway, as you may recall, was well up the fairway, and that was purposely done to try and stop some of those balls from rolling further right. So what we've wanted to do is redress that, if you like, with the works we've done, move that fairway edge back to a more logical and balanced location. So then if we move on to the fairway remodelling itself, as you would recall, there was quite severe left to right slopes, and it was also about where those slopes occurred, and some of the features associated with those slopes. And so we set about recording those with a digital level to register what some of the percentage gradients were, so we understood what the existing condition was and how we could soften some of those slopes in appropriate areas. There's different golfers, different levels of distance being hit, but also different trajectories. So some of the features would influence the ball depending on what trajectory the ball is coming in at. So for example, around 90 metres off the ladies' tee, there was a ridge that if the ball hit that, it would deflect it more aggressively, if you like, off to the right. So we registered those sorts of features and wanted to redress those as part of the fairway remodelling works as well. So that's where we started, in fact, was taking out that soft ridge and removing it so to lessen its impact. Just beyond that ridge there was an existing hollow, and what we did with that was useful for retaining some balls. We expanded that, so we expanded the influence of that hollow, made it longer and broader to retain more balls in that shorter hitting area. And then what we set about doing was bringing in fill for a number of days, and I think it was around 2,000 to 3,000 cubic metres of fill was brought in, and what that let us do was raise that right-hand edge about 1.5 to 1.8 metres all the way along that right-hand side leading up towards the bunker complex. So then what we were able to do was create a much more usable right-hand side of the fairway. We're able to soften some of the more aggressive slopes and reduce the impact on the rolling ball. And effectively what we did is created an additional 10 to 20 metres in some instances of additional fairway area short of the bunkers that were also remodelled. So we're able to take that fairway line, the existing line, and take that all the way down to the right-hand side to accompany that. So previously it was slopes that ran all the way down into the rough. So we still had to retain some of those slopes. We were able to fill and level, and in fact in some instances slope back up as we got closer to the right-hand edge of the fairway, so that some of the balls, when they're rolling down, can hit the flat slope and then take that slope back away from the fairway edge in more towards the fairway. So we think that'll improve the playability significantly along that side. So now we're going to talk about the bunker remodelling. So what we wanted to do here, as previously mentioned, was split that one bunker up into two to create more balance in terms of the scale and proportion of the bunkers. The first bunker, you recall the first lobe, if you like, on the left. We've pushed that back. We've removed that. The extent of the bunker in terms of the line of play stays the same, but we've removed the front section of the bunker and we've pushed it back around 3 metres. We also reduced the bulk of the mound that bunker sat in, which was a bit too bold and aggressive, if you like. So we reduced the height of that, but what we didn't do was remove the slope from that bunker back towards the fairway. So you've got the strong slope coming in from left to right towards that bunker, but then it still rises up gently to the lip of that bunker, so that if balls have enough force and are rolling along that line, there's a bit of a chute there, if you like, that the balls can still run through and can continue along the fairway. So that bunker has reduced somewhat and pushed back a couple of metres, and then we created that second bunker, and as previously mentioned, we reduced the extent of the existing bunker from the right, probably about around 8 metres. But that new bunker is set about 8 metres further along, and as we talked about, the carry is increased now. So the next thing we turned our mind to was what the visibility of those bunkers would look like from further back along the fairway, and also from the tees. So what we were keen to do was to not obscure the ground that's beyond that bunker complex. So with the raising of the fairway, we also raised the base of the bunkers. But what we had to be careful to do was to not compromise in raising all of that ground, what was visible behind it. So what we did is actually created a saddle, if you like, between the two bunkers. So we didn't keep a continuous height between the horizon line of the first bunker and the second bunker. We saddled it in between to maintain greater visibility along there. And that achieved the goals we wanted of seeing the ground beyond, but also raising the base of the bunkers. So in fact, the bunkers are less deep than they were previously, which will help ease of play. And what we also wanted to do was with having that saddle, is let that right-hand bunker rise up and then flow back down to the right-hand side and meet the existing natural ground a bit more sympathetically than it previously was. So we think overall the bunkers sit in that ground more sympathetically. They're less deep. We've addressed access to make sure that they're easily accessible for all golfers. And visually, we think they're sitting much more better into that landscape. Now, if you move back towards the tees, what we are also keeping in mind is we've got some future renovations to the tee complex. So the plan is to raise the middle tee by around 1 metre, and as well as the ladies' tee will also rise up and flip more to the left. And that will create a better line of play for the ladies and increase their visibility with that large slope that's in front of them. And keeping in mind that ridge that we addressed around the 90 metre mark in front of the ladies' tee should create a much more playable and fair line of play for the ladies as well. So I think overall, what we mentioned those words, playability and fairness, they were really what we set out to improve on the works on the 9th. And also just to visually bring the bunkers back to a more sympathetic Sorrento style, which we think we've achieved on the works further down on 9 and on 10. So thank you for your time, and hope you enjoy the works.